We'll give you maybe a couple of minutes to do this poll. Hopefully you can see them all. There should be 5 questions. And Kristen, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see them all? Okay. And I want to let you know that there are absolutely no right or wrong answers. My students always ask me, is this test, is this information on the test? This is not really a test. I'm just trying to get a gauge. We're trying to get a gauge for where you all are. And so the questions, just in case for anyone, if you are on a cell phone or, whatever your situation may be, you may not be able to even participate. That's okay. The questions are you feeling confident about registering? Very confident, confident, somewhat confident, or not confident. The second question is, I've completed the Sakai modules. And the Sakai modules are registration modules that work you or help you through what it means to register at IC. And there's a yes and no. I've completed them. The third question is, I have, prior to this meeting, thought about various career options and paths, multiple choice, true or false. And the fourth is, I have, prior to this meeting, thought about my own educational priorities as opposed to other people's priorities. And then the last question is, I have, prior to this meeting, thought about how my courses relate to my personal priorities and goals. And it looks like some people are still voting, but we have 75%. I'll give one more minute. And it's nice to see the results. And since I am presenting, and this is the first time I've ever done this, Kristen, can you tell me if you can see the live results or no? No? Okay. Okay, we are going to end just about now. And hopefully you can see, hopefully you should be able to see the results. And you can see what they say. Not a lot of you are very confident about registering. That's exactly where you should be. That's okay. That's why we're doing this. We know that that's the case. Okay, so don't feel at all like, that's a problem. Those of you who are somewhat confident or not confident, don't worry. You are precisely where you need to be. Those of you who have completed Sakai modules, 73% have not. Again, I completely identify. I know where you're at. It's okay. I'm glad that you're here and that we'll be able to help you through. The third question, I have, prior to this meeting, thought about various career options and paths. Yes and no. It looks like about 86% of you said yes. Excellent. That's more than I did when I was probably your age. So you are really far, far ahead of many of your colleagues. Question number 4, I have, prior to this meeting, thought about my own educational priorities as opposed to other people's. Again, I'm really impressed with this. 80% have said true, and about 20% have said false. And that's, again, really great because sometimes we don't have that clarity when we begin our journey. And number 5, I have, prior to this meeting, thought about how my courses relate to my personal priorities and goals. About 73% of you have. That's a great number. You are off on a great start. I will stop sharing and we can go to the next slide, Kristen. So I want to draw attention to these dates. July 19th, the Sakai modules open. I just referenced the Sakai modules. They are summer modules, lessons that help you learn about registration at IC, how it's done, the purpose of certain courses, important phone numbers, web pages that you can access. And this is the info session. So I'm here just so that you know where we are. And on the 26th, which is next Monday, we begin registration. Registration opens at noon, and that's Eastern Standard Time, depending on where you are. I have had students in California and Montana and Alaska. So please do remember it's Eastern Standard Time. And you can register all through next week. So it's not limited to July 26th on Monday at noon. Do not worry, do not panic. And that week, July 26th through the 29th, it's Monday through Thursday, actually, I believe, we will be having scheduled review sessions, and you'll be getting some information about that. And what will happen is that you'll be able to sit down with affiliates of the exploratory program, including folks like Miller and Katie and Kristen and myself. And you'll be able to review the courses that you've registered for. So we do want you to independently register, and then we can help you look at your choices and you know, later on in the summer, during fall orientation, you'll have another opportunity to look at your schedule and revisit it. So even, you know, a month from now, you will have time to review your selections. And just a kind of quick reminder, the family and supporter orientation is August 7th and 8th. So you will be getting some information about that very soon. And that information will go to you from the new student transition programs. And there is a question I see in the chat that is about how quickly courses fill. Believe it or not, it's not sort of the rush that you would think. It's not the case that it's always easy to get into every class, but generally students get into the first few choices that they have. We can go to the next slide. So the first thing we really want students to understand is that we have every college and university across the United States has some sort of general core education. And at Ithaca College, what we have is the integrative core curriculum. All students their first year have to take an Ithaca College seminar, also known as an Ithaca seminar. And that is the first course that you must think about, and you must think about declaring a theme. And I think we can go to the next slide, which will give you some information about that. So for now, we don't want to worry about the whole ICC, the integrative core. You have 4 years to complete it. So we're just going to worry about the Ithaca seminar and the theme. And I probably shouldn't use the word worry. Concentrate, focus. We can go to the next slide. And there are different kinds of Ithaca seminars. There's no better or worse Ithaca seminar. They're just different types. The purpose of all Ithaca seminars is always the same. It's bridging the gap between Ithaca college, the college life, college community, moving to college, and high school. So that's one big purpose of the course. And then another purpose of the course is just to have students become familiar with an area that they might not otherwise be interested in or think to take a course. So I always give an example of my own Ithaca seminar on exile and immigration in the Spanish-speaking world. There are lots of students who will never see me because they do not want to take Spanish or don't want to take a language. But I have met a lot of students in my Ithaca seminar, and we talk about immigration and exile. There are also honors Ithaca seminars, and if you are in the honors program, that is the one you will take. And there's also an Ithaca seminar that's for honors and intensive. And those writing and intensive Ithaca seminars are numbered 10800 and 11800. And just so you know, you will be receiving a copy of this PowerPoint, and the copy has live links. So if I say something, you can listen to the recording again, and you can press on the links and go directly to those links. So no worries. And we can go to the next slide. And so here are just some samples of Ithaca seminars. And I wish we had something like this when I was in college. You can actually take a course called Yoga Making Connections, where you learn about meditative practices. You can take Wonder Woman or Wonder Women, feminist history and feminist icons, feasts, famines, and food taboos, cultural and environmental perspectives on foodways, college sport in the age of athlete activism. I don't want to read through all of these, but there are probably something like 60 or 70 Ithaca seminars of all different types. So look through the Ithaca seminars. And again, this is a link, the sample of fall 2021 ICSMs at the top. That title is in fact a link. So you'll be able to look at all of them. You just need to pick one. So pick my suggestion is always to pick the one that looks the most interesting. And if we go to the next slide, the next really important thing is to pick a theme. And once you receive this PowerPoint, that pick a theme title at the top is again a live link, and it will take you to, thank you, it will take you to a page with the integrative core and a description of each of these themes. But really the theme is not so important. A theme is, for example, identities or mind, body, spirit. You take 4 courses over the course of 4 years in 4 areas. So you will take one, for example, if you were to choose Ithaca identities theme, then you would have one identities themed course in humanities, one in social sciences, one in natural sciences, and one in creative arts. And you have 4 years to take these courses. Usually your first semester, you take 1 or 2 of these. That's just sort of everyone, no matter what major, whether you're a music major or in Park, everyone does this. So you will not be behind, you will not be ahead. You will just be exactly where you need to be if you take an Ithaca seminar and pick a theme that will then go with 2 courses or 1 or 2 courses that are in your are in those areas or in those perspectives. So we can go to the next. And so this gives you some ideas of the kinds of courses you can take over 4 years. And again, you'll see the grids. There are advising grids that give you all the titles of the different courses you can take in each one of the themes. And I see a question in the chat that is HNS programs, is that considered a theme? Everyone at the college, no matter what school, so whether you're in HNS, whether you're in Park, whether you're in the music school, all of us, business, all of us have the same integrative core curriculum. That means a student in business or a student in music could still take these 4 courses if, say, for example, they were in the theme of identities. They could still take Anthropology 101, Biology 101, History 106, and Languages or Linguistics 11100, Global Screen Cultures, and still have that same, they would still be the same as, say, a philosophy major or a Park TVR major. They are exactly the same. So it's not school specific, it's college specific. So hopefully that makes some sense. And again, you can't make a lot of mistakes. You will notice one of the things I sort of intentionally did when I made this PowerPoint was show you that some of these courses are in multiple themes. So for example, History 106 is an identities theme, but it's also a humanities theme. Thank you, Kristen. and it can count as a humanities. And I think in some cases, I don't think this is actually the case for that course, but in some cases, there are courses that are natural sciences, for example, that also are social sciences. So this is, again, something that you can change your theme. So don't get too caught up in a theme, just choose one that you think sounds interesting. And we can go to the next slide. And someone did ask about, can you pick and choose between the courses? Yes. So you have to choose one theme. So power and justice, for example, or mind, body, spirit, that is one theme. But the courses that you take within that theme can be whatever you choose. You just need to have one natural science, one social science, one humanities, and one creative arts. And you'll see that each one, when you go to the web pages, you'll see that they are labeled HM, for example, for humanities. And again, we have live links, so you can just click and you'll see these courses. And so how many credits? Most students take between 13 and 17 credits, with an average being 15. You must take at least 12 credits because that is the minimum required for financial aid. And that's sort of a state federal mandate that is not anything that we sort of created. And the 18 maximum permitted is really very few students take 18. I would say that some of the ones that do are maybe theater or music majors, and it's under duress. So even they don't want to do it, but they do. So I really ask students during their first semester, if at all possible, take 15, 16, 14, 17, but never 18. We can go to the next slide and I'll answer a question in the chat while we're doing that. And that is, how many credits per class? Usually classes are 3 or 4 credits. There are 1 credit classes, and we'll be talking about a couple, but most are 3 or 4 credits. And so the fun part, now that you've chosen, hopefully, an Ithaca College seminar, and by the way, I say now figuratively, once you've gone through, as you go through the Sakai modules and you pick an Ithaca seminar and you pick a theme, now you have some fun. And I am a dog person, which is why you see the little dog. So this gives you an example of what a student interested in languages might take. I am obviously sort of biased because I teach languages. But Kristen, would you like to talk about this schedule? And maybe you can talk about a couple of the schedules.
Yeah, sure. So the best way to explain scheduling is, at least for this part visually, it really helps you see how much time you have in a given day. And that sounds really simple, but you have to remember that we're going from like the high school schedule that's like you have class like every single hour from like 7 until 3 o'clock, and differing hours per school and whatnot. But it's a lot of intense work in a very short period of time. Whereas in college, it's kind of a little more spread out over a few days. You don't have every class every single day. But it's also really important to notice that students who are interested in taking a particular curriculum in terms of a specific major they have in mind. So if we look at this person, they have some sort of writing classes, some linguistics classes. I think that's Spanish 201. Incredible. I always say incredible because the language placement tests, they are able to kind of figure out what level you're at. So it's always really neat when you take something in high school or from previous knowledge, and you're able to retain that so well that you end up going up another level. So that's really exciting stuff. Excuse me. You'll also notice that there's some other classes in opposite domains. So for example, we have one in park communications. So even though this is more towards language with linguistics and writing in Spanish, it's also with verbal communication as well. So this shows that there's multiple areas of interest in terms of written language, auditory language, and also just general literature. As you can tell as well, the student is taking academic writing because they know they will need it. So academic writing, as we'll explain later on, is taken by most students. Usually it involves just a basic overview of how to write in college. So you'll understand how to write briefs or what kinds of papers professors are looking for when you are asked to submit a 5-page essay on this article that we write in class, and so forth like that. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Say you're interested in math and art. Most of the art classes are larger blocks of time because they only occur 2 times a week. There's also, you'll notice some different math courses in here that are also 4 times a week. Usually there's 3 lectures and then a drill session, we'll call it. It's kind of like a more relaxed practice session where you can really choose like a specific area of interest to concentrate on or focus on. Definitely really interesting stuff if that's what you're interested in. Again, it kind of goes back up to anthropology. It's a little bit of art, but more towards art and society. And also with the academic writing is there again. Also notice that their seminars are pretty frequent as well. But again, this is someone who's interested in math and art. And as we all know, math can be very hands-on, but art, it's easier to digest, I guess, in a way. So notice how this person doesn't have every class back to back to back to back. So, you'll have time for lunch on Monday, have a little bit more of a break on Tuesday. Fridays, you look pretty good. You get out at 150. That's pretty nice. So it's really about trying to manage your time to the best of your ability while trying to go after things that you're passionate about.
And I'll interject just a minute to say also, one of the reasons I think we used math and art too is to show that a student can be interested in very different things, and that's okay. And it's not unusual to have a student who has a major in business and a minor in music, or has a major in park and a minor in H&S. There's a lot of choice and a lot of flexibility, and we really truly mean that. Somebody asked about 4 classes. Do you usually take 4 or 5 classes? That is about it. Usually it's a seminar and 3 or 4 other classes. And there is one course that has popped up in a couple of the schedules, and that's one that we're going to be talking about, which is exploring the options. That is 1 credit. But I'll leave that for a minute.
Yes. So as you can tell, if you're curious as to which one it is, this one up here at the 9 a.m. on Mondays is the Exploring the Options class that'll occur once a week. But the other ones in a similar color are the Ithaca seminar ones. Notice how most of these classes are also in the 100 and 200 level range. This is really important because we try to start at the very introductory level to garner interest. So say you take a class on policy and social justice, and you really love the social justice factor, but you absolutely hated policy. You were like, this is not for me. It is too confusing. There are too many words, and there's too many laws. This is weird. then from there, you can figure out, okay, how do I go more towards the social justice side and rather not so much the policy? Maybe you won't be able to avoid it entirely, but it will definitely help narrow down your search for your end goal of what you want. And maybe that's something that a major will give you, or maybe it's something that a major and a minor will give you. There's a bunch of different combinations further down the line that can be considered there. And again, notice how we've got business classes, we've got communications classes, we've got Spanish and anthropology again. So like Maria had just said, we're kind of all over the place, which is just the right place to be, really. Some students come in with all their eggs in one basket. They're like, I think I'm really, really excited to be a film student. And they take 4 film courses and they go in and, they might have enjoyed 1 or 2 of them, but they're like, yeah, film isn't for me. And it's because you put all your eggs in one basket and we're not ambitious enough, I would say, to go explore in other domains that you have interest in. And I guess it's important to define what interest is. It might be something that you just naturally have like a knack for. It might be something that you have always had in your life, some sort of like sports or cultural activity or involvement that you've always been part of that you want to integrate into your life more permanently, like with a career. It could be anything that you just, my friend's mom does this for a living and it seems pretty cool and she always travels and I want to travel, so I'm going to check out what that's about. And things like that. It's really just about what you are truly interested in. And that's going to be really key, especially going into the first semester. So, for example, people who are interested in business, we usually take World of Business. And also, don't be afraid. If you are supposed to take this like beginner class, like this 101 class, and you don't end up taking it until later on, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be behind. Everyone starts differently in different places, and everyone ends up usually around the same finish line. So it's not necessarily about when you take what, but if you truly enjoy it. Also,
And
you'll mention, go ahead.
so one of the reasons we also wanted to highlight some of these courses in specific schools like business, we have students, I'll tell a quick story, which is I had a student who was in an Ithaca seminar a few years ago with me, and he was a business student and he was taking World of Business, and I don't remember if it was macro or microeconomics, and he was a business major and he was absolutely miserable. But he had started as business, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you absolutely wanted to do. But he didn't know about Exploratory, and we ended up. I had a conversation with him, and I said, "Well, why don't you do Exploratory?" And he said, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Well, you can explore in other areas and then decide what you want to do." So if you are an exploratory student from the get-go, by my telling you this, hey, you can take macroeconomics or microeconomics or World of Business. These are ways that you can explore. And also possibly if you decide, wow, business really is what I want to do, you will then have actually completed a requirement. So this is, again, strategic, intentional exploring, not haphazard exploring. And by the way, macro and microeconomics also fulfill a quantitative literacy requirement. So if you are not a math person, there are other ways of completing that requirement. We do not have a math requirement. We have a quantitative literacy requirement. Oh, I see somebody asked a question. So if we're already taking an Innovation Scholar seminar, do we need to take another seminar? No, good question. Good question. If you are in that program, no, this is a new program, so there are new Ithaca seminars that are part of that program.
Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you so much for asking them. So again, this kind of is an idea of building a schedule based off of your interests. They're still taking academic writing and in their seminar. If you walk away from anything from this talk, please just know that you have to register for a seminar. We hope you register for Exploring the Options, but notice that everybody must take a seminar. Okay, that's my little soapbox. Again, business and languages kind of go hand in hand. It's very good to have them, but also it's not always necessary. So, this person might end up taking their business 101 class and absolutely hating it. And they might want to go into being a French translator instead. So things like that, that are just all about perspective and what you truly want. Again, this is kind of like Park. Park is our communication school on campus. So this involves anything with media, like television, radio, film, and also like strategic communications. So like media planning, advertising, structural ideas like instructional design and things like that. So again, we have a sample here. This person is kind of all over the place. They have intro to aging studies for their ICC. So this will count most likely towards their natural science or their social science. They have introduction to strategic communication, introduction to poetry, because they have interests a little bit in spoken and written word, but also kind of towards the more written communication form. So there's so many opportunities and there's so many different ways of things that you can do with these things. And really there's just so much that there's so much possibility, really. And this is actually a really great schedule because they're taking specifically a diversity course, which is awesome. But notice that they're also taking an ICSM, which is an Ithaca seminar with writing. So if you are able to, and you've already taken academic writing through a different requirement, you're able to kind of like double dip, we call it, and accomplish your first year seminar and your writing intensive, which is another requirement. And don't panic if you can't get this. Not everybody wants this anyway. It might not be interesting to you. It's okay. I took writing for the workplace for my writing intensive and it was fabulous. I had no problem with it. I also just took academic writing and that was fine. I had no problem with it. So there's really just so much opportunity in making your schedule. And again, notice how we have breaks in between each class. They really do fly by. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be sitting there for an hour. Like, no, you're moving pretty fast. And also notice that the one time you have back-to-back classes, it's just on Friday, which is already like the end of the week. And it's only one day a week that happens. So really great things going on here. And hopefully soon we're going to get into what if situations, because as we go towards registering for classes, you might have been looking at the catalog and had a perfect idea in mind of what courses you want to take, and it might be full. I'm going to tell you honestly that in my 4 years here at IC, I have had to submit a course override every single time for at least one of my classes, even after declaring it a major. And this is because sometimes our system doesn't recognize the requirements and also doesn't recognize what we truly want to do. And that's okay. So have backups to your backups. I always say, if you're going to pick a seminar, have one that you really want to shoot for, but then have 3 backups. It's always better to go in and just be able to cross things off and say, I wanted that one, but this one's my runner up. And then this one, rather than going in there with only one idea and going, oh, it's full, and then panicking and not, and just worrying about trying to get into one. It's much easier if you go in with a thoughtful plan, kind of like what Maria was talking about earlier. And also the first full week of classes is what we call add drop week. It means that you can add on a class or drop any class that is not of interest to you. So this is kind of like one person's trash is another man's treasure type of thing. So many people will take classes and they're like, yeah, I'm so interested in this. This sounds awesome. Let's do this. And they get in there and they're like, this is not what I thought it was. And then they drop the class and you're like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted to take. Like I couldn't even get it during my regular registration. And then you can add it to your course registration and there you go, all good to go and ready to roll. Sometimes error messages occur. The first thing I always check is if I meet the requirements of the course. So sometimes it's like you have to be a sophomore level or you don't have the right prerequisite. Like if you have to have a specific math level for like a quantitative literacy course, that might be why. Otherwise, it might be because you missed a step in trying to register for classes. So that's why it's so important to watch the Sakai modules and to go through them thoroughly. And sometimes our system just crashes. It happens every year. Again, it's easier said than done. Try not to panic. You know, a contact, if you're trying to get into a part class, there's communications dean's office, where they strictly handle all of the registration processes. H&S has one and the business school has one, and there's many different options in terms of people that you can contact for if an error were to occur. So
There's lots of reasons, as Kristen said, so do not panic. And as she also said, again, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Literally this week, I've already had meetings with students on the same day, one who wants to drop film analysis, I think it is, and is in Park.
yep.
But she was an explorer. And who is she talking to? She is not talking to her Park professor. She's talking to me. She said, I really think I need to drop this. I really don't want to do it. You know, what do I do? I said, well, right now you can't do anything because the only people who can register in the next week are first year students. But that course right now is full. And so when she drops, there will be a space. And she's not the only person in that boat. It happens every semester. Not
Right. And
guaranteed a space, but every semester it happens.
right. And this is also a chance for you to try out a class. So if you aren't sold on it, if you think that by November you're in this class and you don't see yourself really enjoying the material, then maybe that's not the right class for you. And it's okay to admit that because we have many, many, many other courses to take. So don't be afraid to continue shopping around even after you've made your schedule and even during ad drop week. Don't be afraid to keep looking because that's what being an explorer is all about, is keeping all your options open and knowing what you want and how it fits into your values. So a pivoting point.
I'm sorry, a couple of things that have to do with what Kristen was just talking about. I put in the chat poison or just hard. There are some classes that may just be hard, but can you get through them? If it's something that you really, really absolutely adore and love, then maybe you really just need to get through it. And, you know, a C is not a bad grade. So sometimes we mistake something being hard with something being worthwhile. And then there are courses that are poison courses where we go, you know what? I don't want to do this. I know that this is just not what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's also okay. It really is.
Yep, I couldn't have said it any better. But basically, this is our academic calendar for the year. A lot of this stuff, you're like, oh, this really doesn't matter right now. But as it comes up on you, it really sneaks up on you really fast. You'll notice that it's like, oh, the last day to do these things. And so, as Maria was mentioning before, there's a hyperlink here. So when you get the PowerPoint, you can just click here. And it also goes into the later half of the semester as well. So now Katie is going to talk about registration success.
So when you go to register, these are the basic things that you're going to want to have. I know we've done a ton of talk about Ithaca seminar. Make sure that you sign up for that. You have to take it your first semester, first year. It's going to be a huge help. And that's one class out of the way that you kind of like, all right, That's one less class to worry about. Next class is academic writing. And as Kristen said, this is to kind of prepare you for college writing, you know, what's expected. It's different than high school writing, and we really want to make sure that you're set up for success. And then you're going to pick 1 or 2 possible courses in a major or minor, something that interests you, something that like might be a possible major or minor. And then another good option is to select a course that fulfills one of your ICC themes. And again, so you need to pick a theme, and then in the links, you can see all the possible classes in the fall that will fulfill that. You have 4 years to do it, so don't panic. Don't try and get them all in the fall semester. Focus on just one that intrigues you, and you're all set. And then the last class that we highly recommend registering for is exploring the options, and it's only 1 credit, which is really nice. John, yeah, perfect. So exploring the options is specifically for explorers. It is really incredible, and I kind of wish that I'd had this option when I was an undergraduate. It offers accountability for you because it gives you a lot of the information and resources available to you on campus. Like they'd be like, oh, you can go here and you can do this, and here's this weekly thing happening, and here's this meeting happening, which is just really interesting. Your faculty advisor, while you're an explorer, is the teacher of the class. So you're seeing your advisor every week. A lot of colleges, you'll see your advisor once a semester, and that's to figure out what classes you should take for your next semester, and that's all you see them. But studies have shown that the students who meet with their advisor more, especially in their first year, tend to do better and tend to graduate. So you get to see your advisor every week, which is really valuable. You're with other explorers, so it can be kind of weird when you aren't part of the like math bubble or the business bubble. But in here, you guys are all in the same boat. You're all learning about the same things. You're all exploring. I mean, there are so many options that you really get to build off of each other. It's an informed position. So again, you learn about everything that you can do, all the incredible things that Ithaca has to offer for you. You work on decision-making and research skills. These are things that may not have gone over in high school, so it's a really great starter. You come up with an academic plan that is kind of like a guideline that you can follow for your next few years. And then you also work with our PALS program, which is the peer ambassadors and leaders. So you basically work with alumni explorers, students who were previously explorers who have now declared. You work with them and really build a relationship with them, work with them, and just really do some incredible things with them.
And I should say about 50%, if not more, of explorers choose their major by the end of the first year, and a good close to that probably do it right after taking exploring the options. So by doing all this research, they actually are ready then to declare. Go ahead, Katie, I'm sorry.
Oh, this is actually up to Miller, sorry.
Oh, okay,
It's me
great.
now. All right, so avoiding scheduling hazards, and there are some red flags when it comes to planning your schedule. I believe Kristen touched on some of these briefly, but I'm going to go into a bit more detail. You really do not want to plan classes back to back. They're for convenience reasons, if only that, because you'll want to have a class that's a writing class down at Smitty Hall, and then you only have 10 minutes to get to your class that's a film class down in Park. It's going to be miserable, and especially so during the winter. But also, you might want time during the day to, I don't know, eat lunch for one. You want to be available too, for one, you might have an on-campus job at some point. You might have to meet with a professor during their office hours that are during the day. And so you just want to be available just in case. And you want to be able to hang out with friends. Exactly. We have choice time, not free time.
What I'll say very quickly what we always mean by that, by the choice time, that's a very exploratory thing to do, is we tell students you have to plan to succeed. And we all struggle with that. So no one's, none of us is perfect. But if you have eating breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning on your schedule, and that's routine, then you'll actually make time to do it. And you won't be rushed when you need to get to class at 9. So those are the kinds of things that we mean. If you have practice with a team at 4, maybe you shouldn't take the 3 o'clock class. Maybe you need the time, right, to not be finishing at 3:50 and then run over, even though you can't. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Great addition. So you don't want to plan too early or too late. Again, you know yourself best. And at some point you'll probably at some point in your college career have to take a class that this only section is available at 8 a.m. But right now you have more choice in that. And so if you know you're someone who likes to sleep in a little bit and likes to get their work done at night, or likes to wake up really early and is fine having an early class, again, you know yourself best. Account for placement exams. Kristen touched on this again briefly. You can go into Homework Connect or the course catalog, and when you're looking up a course, you can look at its prerequisites. Always look at prerequisites for class, because some will require some sort of exam before, some might need another class that's related to it. And of course, you can't just walk into Ithaca with no Spanish experience and take Spanish 3.
Actually, you
You
can.
You can?
So that's okay, though. That's okay. So Miller and everyone else, the only reason I happen to know is because I teach languages. So there are students who come in, they're native speakers or near native. They take level 4 French and level 3 French and sometimes do better than the students who have been here. So, but that is exceptionally different. And sometimes you get error messages just for that reason too, when you're trying to register. So in math classes and language classes, always feel free to email just in case.
Oh yeah, always get in touch with the professor. That's a great way to find out more about the class. And account for AP scores and transfer classes. There are some that do transfer over, there are some that don't. It's always good to make sure which are which and make sure that you know which classes do transfer over. It'd be horrible if you got to some point in your college career, you're like, oh, I have this requirement taken care of because I took this AP class in high school, but then find out it didn't actually count for that. Plan for success. We've been talking about this all night. All of this is for planning for your success. It may seem incredibly tedious at times, but it's so helpful. One of the best things about Ithaca is about the exploratory program in general is it's so well organized for your success. And it's important that you integrate your personal needs and priorities. I've mentioned this before, you know yourself best. Before, you may have had mom or dad or whatever guardian telling you what to do in life, but now for the most part, you're on your own, and that can be a bit scary, especially when a lot of the choices you're making seem like big life-changing decisions. But luckily for you, you have a lot of support systems to help you through it. Lots of nuts. And that's a great leeway into, next slide. your resources. So the great thing about most of these resources here, from the Writing Center all the way down to academic advising, and this is going to be your favorite phrase in college, it's free. You should utilize these so much. The Writing Center, you can just pop in with an essay you're working on for writing intensive class or for academic writing. And I think academic writing is even in the same building as the Writing Center most of the time. And there's so many great students who will look at your paper and tell you what you can do better and help you work on it. And it's free. The Tutoring Center, if you need extra help for a class, there are students who have taken the classes before who can help you, TAs, CAPS. That's the mental health resource that we have on campus. I know there were some problems with trying to schedule appointments, but other than that, CAPS is such a great resource. Student burnout is a completely real thing, very common. If you need help, if you're struggling, go to CAPS. Hammond Health Center, if it's like, you got a cough, you don't know why, things are still scary after COVID, we have our on-campus health center. Great resource. You can schedule an appointment and pop in. Fitness center, what's better than a free gym membership? Nothing. You'll have to pay for that literally anywhere else. But not at IC. I believe last semester we had to sign up for specific sessions, but not now. I'm gonna go a little bit into student involvement. There's so much to do on campus that rather than asking, what can I do? You should be asking, how can I fit in everything that I want to do? We have a library. Some students just live there. It's a great place just to go at all hours and get work done, work on group projects, meet with friends. Financial services, super great resource. They're super helpful over there. I had a lot of questions personally going into grad school. And so I was calling, 3 times a week, emailing and, asking the dumbest questions. And even though I was asking the dumbest questions, they were so nice about it and so helpful in every way. And we have so many organizations, from comic book club to pride organizations, Books Through Borders. I could sit here forever and just talk about them. There is a student org fair that will happen pretty early in the fall semester, where most clubs and organizations will have tables set up and they'll tell you about their club and make you sign up for their email newsletter, and you can show up to the first meeting and decide, if you want to be part of that club or not. And yeah, we have religious resources, and they're really great too.
Yes, so as I can see by our many notifications, and I do want to be aware of the time for everyone who has to leave. That's perfectly okay. But for anything that you feel we didn't talk about enough, or things that you want more clarification on, now is a great time to ask about it. Feel free to send a message into our chat and we can answer that. Although we might have gone over some of them already, but I know I'm definitely able to stick around and answer those questions as needed. But for those who need to go, feel free to sign up for a check-in and review next week. We have slots open from July 26th through the 29th. I always say sign up, and worst case, if you don't need it, you can always cancel it. It's always good to have it and then worry about it later than be scrambling for an appointment. And these are really short, just 20-minute sessions. They'll go over your schedule, make sure that you're hitting all of your core requirements, making sure you signed up for a seminar, asking about your interests, and making sure that those interests align with the courses that you chose, and so on. And we'll also see you at orientation, which is great, super exciting, not too far away. And also feel free to follow us on social media. So IC Exploratory on Instagram and also Ithaca College Exploratory Program on Facebook. We are active on both, and we're excited to have you all on campus this fall.
And I did just put a couple of more things in the chat. Please do fill out the survey. It is absolutely anonymous. We won't know who filled out what. We do use information for just improving the program. And technically we're done, but if you do have questions, we're here to, well, at least Kristen and I can stick around. I'm not sure if Katie and Miller, how long